Tim, you were there. Give me your insights and anything you might have picked up in the post-game presser before we field input from fans here at the Voice of College Football.
Well, we all felt it, and Riley addressed it as well. Just that the slow starts, last game, this game, they're both a bit different. This one was more just based on just the turnovers, really. I mean, if you looked at the yardage and in the game, USC was playing their game. They just could not, they couldn't take care of the ball. But we saw, like we've seen in the previous games, you see them make those adjustments at halftime and come storming back. So he addressed that. He said that we have to tighten that up, get better about that, and kind of stop the slow starts.
Now, drilling down in terms of position groups, Tim, I'm sure that the number one concern for most fans is the offensive line. What, if anything, was said about the offensive line in particular?
Nope, nothing was addressed about the offensive line.
Any position group, or just general 40,000-foot remarks?
Well, I actually just listened to the opening remarks by Riley, and he had Kamari Ramsey and Miller Moss in there for the, and then I had to come here and get set up for this, so I had to step out. But from Riley, he said that you show me a soft team, I'll show you a soft quarterback. Miller did in this game. I've talked about Miller, the way he hangs in the pocket, stands tall in the pocket, and gets hit. This just continues to happen.
Now, I was watching this game on CBS. You were obviously inside the stadium. CBS reporter Jenny Dell said on the air, quote, "It's not looking great for Miller Moss. They're looking for a concussion." So she didn't actually say he had a concussion, kind of implied it. And he was in the tent. Anything that you saw in terms of Miller Moss in the medical tent and like how the training staff was tending to him? Is there anything to pick up on that situation and how it was handled?
No. They asked him post game about it, and he kind of just dismissed it, said they just wanted to check me out, so they probably put him into the medical tent, evaluated him, and he was fine. He was okay. There was really no issue.
Okay. And did Lincoln Riley say anything about like why he didn't have Jaden Mayava finish the game? Okay, we might have lost Tim there. Tim did tell me before we went on the air for this show that they might clear him out of his area in the Coliseum press box. So Tim gave me the heads up. All right, Tim's back. Was there anything said about why Lincoln Riley didn't just have Jaden Mayava come in late in the game? Because he was warming up very briefly. Was there anything on that?
No. Again, it was really more of it was jovial. There's laughter. There wasn't really any kind of criticism. You saw the team. It was pretty obvious what happened in this game. USC came, was the better team. The ball security was an issue in the first half. Once they got that sorted out, USC kind of kicked back in and showed what kind of team they are. So, no, it was really just a little bit talking about Miller. There was a question about Eric Gentry's health, and Riley just dismissed it completely. I think he'll address that kind of stuff later on. Yeah.
Okay. Any other media notes that you scooped up that are worth noting?
Well. No, to be honest, again, I read. So,
all right.
Yeah, really, you're hitting me up here right here with a lot of questions. I haven't seen the TV copy. Okay. You got to remember, when I'm shooting down a 200 millimeter lens. When I go back and watch the game, I'll see a lot more of the film. But right now, I was just doing a lot of photography. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So knowing that they might whisk you out of there, let's just get Tim's takes. What did you see? What do you think? What do you feel?
Give me a second, because I literally just walked up. Let me catch my breath and stuff. So why don't you go ahead, take over for a little bit, and then we'll move in. All right.
Okay. Well, while Tim does catch his breath, I think offensive line, like that is the big banner headline from this game. That the standard that USC needs to set, not going to cut it against Penn State in 2 weeks. And I did say Josh Henson has a few weeks to build up this offensive line for Penn State on October 12th. And that building process, like there's a long way to go with it. And, there are young players on this line, and like they will have to learn the hard way. They're going to have to, it's going to be a trial by fire. Like, you can't learn unless you do, make a certain amount of mistakes, but shouldn't be making too many mistakes. Shouldn't be making this many mistakes. Like, it got to be a pretty constant tidal wave of difficulties for USC midway through the second quarter, late in the second quarter. Wisconsin got to a point, not really, first quarter was decent, but the second quarter, it became a situation where Wisconsin was getting more comfortable with its pass rush, sometimes with 4 down linemen, sometimes with a late blitzer, still having 6 back to cover and then sending a 5th man as a blitzer, sometimes up the middle, sometimes outside. And like, there were communication issues with Elijah Page and Emmanuel Pregnon. Like, they would both block the same guy and the other man would come free. So, lots to pick up on, lots to clean up on for this USC offensive line. And like, we saw Miller Moss, the warrior, and on his late touchdown, I don't know if anyone else thought about this, but remember John Elway, the helicopter in Super Bowl 32 against the Green Bay Packers, 1998, but just putting his body on the line at the goal line because he knew how much this game meant. That's Miller Moss. Miller Moss sacrificing his body. And like, there's something obviously impressive about Miller Moss, and he certainly embodies the fight on mentality. That part of it is great. But big picture, Miller Moss cannot be taking this many hits. Just not sustainable over the course of a season. And if you keep accumulating hits, you put him up against Penn State, you put him up against Notre Dame, you put him up against, maybe Rutgers. Rutgers beat Washington the other night. You keep putting Miller Moss at risk of big hits. He's probably going to throw a crucial interception at some point that could cost USC very dearly. So this offensive line has to do a far, far better job of keeping Miller Moss clean in the pocket, reducing the amount of hits that Miller Moss takes over the course of a season, over the course of a game. Like, this standard is just not going to be there. This standard is just not going to get USC where it wants to go against Penn State. That really is the main storyline of this game. I mean, Miller Moss being a leader and a warrior, we love it. It's admirable. That's obviously one of the very positive stories to take away from this game. But big picture, in terms of USC getting to the college football playoff, in terms of USC getting 10 wins this year, in terms of USC meeting its foremost goals, this offensive line is standing in the way of that process. And there's no position group that needs more work than Josh Henson's unit. So Tim, I gave you a chance to catch your breath. Now let's get Tim's takes.
Well, let's go back. So you were talking about that play. It reminded me a lot also, if you remember, when Carson Palmer, I think it was a UCLA game, where he went into the corner of the end zone and kind of got helicoptered as well. I didn't really notice, DeMiller did have to move around a little bit in the pocket, but I'm not really noticing the complete breakdown that you were talking about. Matt, maybe let's go watch the TV copy, but it was really one of the narratives of this game I thought about was just the way Jacoby Lane really came on. I think he had 10 catches. I mean, he really, this is kind of like a breaking out party for him. So I want to focus on that stuff. The fact that it looks like Deuce probably has a couple balls he wants back, but he looked great out there. I think that the passing game's coming along, and then Woody's just really doing a great job getting those tough yards. And then when Quentin comes in late in the game, when the defense is a little bit gassed, I mean, USC had the ball for a lot of that game. Really, outside of the turnovers, Wisconsin really wasn't doing much. So, they did a couple explosive plays, but other than that, they really didn't do much in the entire game. And so you could see that their defense was tired, and you do that switch up and you bring Quentin in. That was really interesting to see how, he's quite a load, and he was great to watch late in the game.
Yeah, I just pumped for everyone watching here at the Voice of College Football. One of the things I do after every USC football game, the USC Football report card at Trojans Wire, that's published, it's live. There were 2 players I gave A's to on this USC roster, and you just named them, Jacoby Lane, Deuce Robinson. Like, they made man's catches. They made big boy catches. And not only were they physically impressive, Tim, they were important catches. Like, those were the catches that stitched together the rally from the 21-10 deficit. Jacoby Lane's toe dance on the sideline on that 3rd and 15. You could argue, along with the Wisconsin muffed punt, like the Wisconsin muff and that Jacoby Lane toe dance catch on the 3rd and 15. Those are the two biggest plays of the game. Those were the swing plays. Those are the plays that basically turned the game in USC's favor, gave the Trojans the forward momentum in the second half. So Jacoby Lane and Deuce Robinson, yeah, they stepped up in a very big way when, marking that transition from 21-10 down to 24-21 up. Obviously, the defense had another good second half, but really those two players, in my mind, they graded out the highest for USC.